Hello all. Today in this video, I am integrating the article published in Kurukshetra 2020 June, which relates to water harvesting and sustainable agriculture. All of us are aware of the fact that India is presently reeling under acute water crisis, which is essentially due to the two factors. Number one, change in the climate that has majorly manipulated the precipitation pattern and evaporational loss with spatial diversities and unsustainable agricultural practices precisely involving overexploitation of water resources, specifically groundwater, without taking care of replenishing the groundwater sources. States of our country, ranging from Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, are reeling under acute water scarcity, with almost all the conventional wells and tube wells dried up because the subsurface aquifers have depleted. This write-up therefore makes a very important edge in updating our content towards enrichment of our knowledge and integrating the information with our answer writing. So taking note of this article, attaching it with a PDF write-up that you can certainly take for your reference, which I have taken from both FAO as well as mygov.in blog write-up with support of few diagrams also. We'll try to make sense with what this write-up is all about and what are the key terms that I can take out from this write-up. So let us get to our study of sustainable agriculture and water resource management, dominantly in Indian perspective. Kurukshetra, June 2020. This is the article that I talked about, the water management towards sustainable agriculture. And this article essentially is talking about few important things that we need to take into our understanding. So if I read the first few important statements that comes up from it, water is one of the most crucial resources for sustainable agricultural development worldwide. So two key terms that I am taking up. One is water resource development and one is water resource development and second is sustainable agriculture. Now when I talk about sustainable agriculture and water resource management, you need to take understanding of what are the key dimensions to them. So I want to pick it up from Kurukshetra itself. Sustainable water management in agriculture aims to match water availability and water needs in quantity and quality. Very important statement and must be taken up as a key statement even in your answer writing. That when I say sustainable water management, it is to match up the demand and supply both in terms of quality and quantity and also in terms of time and space. This factor has to say with our monsoonal climatic characteristics and the variations that we see in the climatic regions of our country. Water resource distribution in the country varies not just in perspective of time, as in during advancing monsoonal season, we have got more than 70% of our annual rain being received. So that time India overall is water surplus time and rest of the year we become water deficit, very known fact. And second thing that has been mentioned here, space, is that if I take a general comparison, will it not be correct for me to say that northeastern states of our country is always water surplus? However, when I get to the western part of our country or the peninsular interiors, the drought prone region, they are always with water deficit. So sustainable water resource utilization is to ensure matching up of demand and supply, two things, both in terms of space and time, as well as in quality and quantity. So very important statement in the beginning paragraph itself. And then if I proceed further, it says, the efficiency of irrigation is very low since less than 40% of the applied water is actually used by crop. This is key term that we have started utilizing in present agricultural study, WUE. It stands for water use efficiency. Lesser the water use efficiency, more is the wastage of water, and more the wastage of water, less sustainable practice it is. because we have got less than, because if I read this, 40%, approximate 40%. We do have got means of irrigation that gives us possibility of 90% plus of water use efficiency, agreed. But in overall, irrigation potentials that we have developed for our agriculture is identified with water use efficiency of up to 40%. That means 60% of utilized water is not being actually put to the crop cultivation. So this is challenge which is very significant. So we are trying to understand the profile of water and its utilization in the country from Kurukshetra. So there is inequality in the distribution of quality and quantity of water, number one. Number two, irrigation potential utilization levels are still at very low. 40% of the total applied water is being utilized. So 60% is going in the waste. The third thing, under the scarcity of water and changing climate scenario, India has a very formidable and challenging task of feeding 17.5% of world's human population from a meager 2.3% of land area, which is further constrained by the fact that country has only 4% of the global water resource. Some statistics here, and these are very basic statistics. It should not be as a prominent focal point of my answer, but it surely makes my answer somewhere more convincing. We are second most populous country of the world, second most populous country, which is accounting for some 17.5% of the global population. The 2019 UNFPA projections have proved that we are going to become the most populous country by the next round of census. We have started with the process of it, only delay because of the pandemic. I'm talking about 2021 census. India is the seventh largest country when it comes to its land area, and that is where we compare 17.5% of the population living in approximate 2% of the land area, where India do have 4% of global freshwater asset. So then 4% to feed 17.5% of the population, we can easily understand the overall profile of water in our country is quite challenging. And if I continue next to read a profile, it is also very important here. So highlighting, in addition to the second largest human population, the country also has to provide feed and fodder to 11% of world's livestock population. Combination of high yielding varieties and enhanced availability of water and fertilizer, the three key inputs of agriculture, transformed India from begging bowl to one with overflowing granaries. This is a positive thing that has been applied here. So let us conclude our profile at this point. So India is at a challenging point when it comes to water resource. And then we can understand that because of green revolution, we essentially call it Generation 1 green revolution. Generation 1 green revolution was large scale diffusion of high yielding varieties of seeds, which was incorporated without any doubt with fertilizers, and assured means of irrigation. Generation 1 green revolution of 1960s, with these 3 points, of inputs, have actually made India convert her status from being a grain importing to grain sufficient country. So we are not undermining that fact, but has it proved to be that we are taking the development on the sustainable front? This is what we have to answer. So if I take you to this part here, sustainable agriculture is a way of farming according to location specific ecosystem and study of relationship between organisms and their environment. We want to study it with support of certain diets. FAO identifies sustainable agriculture to be related to these 7 aspects, which are they: safe and healthy, nutritionally adequate. That means I must avoid integrating heavy doses of chemical fertilizer, pesticides, insecticides, because it is surely going to have difficult outcome in long run or even in mid and short term. Number three is economically fair and affordable. Because if I take economic census 2010 into account, 63% of our total land holding is still of marginal farmers. So marginal farmers cannot afford to have heavy, expensive doses of chemical input. So it has to be fair and equitable. Then comes up number four, conservation of biodiversity and ecosystem. I need to maintain the biotic diversity. Mind it, it is also incorporating soil biodiversity. When I talk about soil biodiversity, Atlas Observation 2019, it has given us the understanding that Indian soil is one of the most stressed soil in world. It is just not because of entire range of unsustainable agricultural practices, but also an overall ignorance of the soil biodiversity, microorganisms, residue detention, least, say, utilization of furrowing and etc. That is a must to maintain the soil biodiversity. So it's very important thing. Then comes up number five, culturally acceptable. A very good example for this goes with our aquaculture. India took quite long to commercially mobilize aquaculture because aquacultural produce do not show compatibility to Indian dietary culture. Because when I talk about any sort of aquacultural produce in the food resource, India essentially makes example of dietary culture that is vegetarian in nature. So that compatibility should be there. And it was a very hard time for the Fish Farmers Development Agency to actually generate aquaculture. So culturally acceptable is also a very important thing. And if it is not a traditional practice, then somewhere generating farmer synergetic techniques, training to make them compatible with it. So it's very important factor of it. Recycled water, so it is very important thing, because when I talk about sustainable agriculture, water conservation cannot be taken as a secondary factor. And whenever this term has come into our study, I have always emphasized conservation is different from preservation. Conservation talks about judicial use. Conservation talks about fair and equitable use. And it is very different from preservation, because preservation more focuses on denial of use. Any natural thing will remain a resource only when it is utilized. If it is not utilized, it ceases to remain resource. And then from factor four, that is conservation of biodiversity and ecosystem, we can directly relate symbiotic relationship. Symbiotic relationship is biotic link, which is non-feeding. There must be a mutualistic growth, as in biodiversity and economic growth should be compatible to each other. Because in the lack of this compatibility, automatically the outcome will be somewhere much more detrimental. So which are the components? I quickly number them so that it becomes easier for you to refer. There are 7 components of sustainable agriculture outlined by Food and Agriculture Organization. Taking you back to Kurukshetra. Location specific ecosystem and relationship between organisms and their environment. Simply stated, sustainable agriculture is a form of agriculture aimed at meeting the needs of present generation without endangering the resource base for future generations. So I need to utilize, but utilize it judicially so that I can sustain the ecological setup, the soil fertility, the availability of water resource, soil moisture, prevailing climatic conditions for the future generation also. So it must be correlated to it. And very important factor, such system must be resource conserving, socially supportive, commercially competitive, and environmentally sound. So can we see that these 4 factors written here can easily overlap with 7 components of sustainable agriculture outlined by Food and Agriculture Organization, which we have learned with support of a diagram. So it's a very important factor for us to take sustainable agriculture from this perspective. And then the following ways to sustain agricultural productivity include soil management, efficient water resource management, right method of irrigation, micro irrigation, life saving irrigation, use of mulches, etc. We'll go to the details, and crop management. Let us try to understand it like this. Water resource management and sustainable agriculture essentially relates to 3 components which are interrelated. One will lead to the other. Soil management, crop management, water management, because these will lead to conservation agriculture or resource based agriculture. These are key terms in the present perspective of agricultural planning. What is meant by soil management? Soil management incorporate timely irrigation, quantity of water utilized, how many time of watering during the growing season, laser leveling of the land so that any minor undulations is not restricting the percolation of water to enrich the soil moisture. What is meant by crop management? Crop management can be correlated to selecting the crop that is best suited to the given condition. When I select the crop in accordance to prevailing condition, I ensure that I am not going on with over exploitation. Water management again goes with conservation techniques, in sense that you must get into utilization of water in terms of what is its availability. Are you replenishing it or not? If you are not, then you are not with the sustainable practices. And also with that, you can easily add soil management, laser leveling, biotic manure, crop management, crop ecological zonation, and water management, micro irrigation, and participatory irrigation management. These are the key expressions for conservation agriculture and resource based agriculture. These practices we have to take, and these practices by default takes us to many overlapping terms. Like I have used biotic manure here. Is it not taking us to organic farming? Yes, it is. And when I talk about organic farming, what exactly we try to learn, quickly see this, will be much easier. Techniques of organic farming. So I've got organic farming here is inclusive of 4 components. Mulching, biofertilizer, vermicompost, and seed treatment. And once I take this into account, we are essentially correlating it to which by default will be. So if I take the references of mulching, mulching goes with zero budget natural farming with soil straw, seed treatment have been identified as Bij Mitra, biofertilizer or less utilization of chemical fertilizer is related to Jivam Mitra, and vermicompost can be, it's not absolutely related to, and that is where the overlap can essentially be not an absolute one. I'm writing it here, the soil moisture that will be correlated to Vapasha. So the technique of organic farming with its four component essentially overlaps both with sustainable agriculture and zero budget natural farming, the key term that we have tried to apply in our sustainable agricultural practices in India. Because I see absolute 3-point matching, whether it is Bij Mitra, whether it is mulching, whether it is Jeevam Mitra, it's absolutely overlapping. Only with Vapasha, I'm not having the total overlap with vermicompost. Vermicompost will be more applied with the biotic fertilizer that we can correlate with the technique. Okay, and if I take it further, geographically, there are types of organic farming outline, and this is again an important informative reference that you can add in your answer writing. So, which are the types of organic farming? It is pure organic farming, integrated organic farming, and integrated farming systems. I have included brief definitions of each one of them, so kindly have a look onto it. When I say pure organic farming, it incorporates utilization of organic fertilizer, biopesticide with finished shrinking of inorganic chemicals and pesticide. That means it is absolute no to chemical inputs. It's absolutely biotic. So pure organic farming, pure biotic organic farming. So by default, this will have the most sustainable agricultural characteristics, but possibility is that it will not be altogether practically feasible in every location. So comes in next, integrated farming. It includes incorporated supplement administration and integrated pest management. So we do have got pest management and etc. integrated here, means we are having certain important inputs to make it practically more justified. So I'm integrating pest management and etc. And what is practically most judged? Integrated farming system. In this sort, nearby assets are successfully reused by including different parts like poultry, fish pond, mushroom, goat raising, and so on, separated from product segment. It is low info organic farming. So integrated farming system is more of mixed farming, where we try to utilize waste from one segment as input to the other segment. And it is definitely more practical and it is giving me more fruitful out. Types of organic farming. Is organic farming synonym to sustainable agriculture? Not essentially, but they correlate to water resources in India. Quite important paragraph from Kurukshetra write-up must take into account. So, point one, rainwater is the primary source to meet the demand of water in Indian agriculture. Number two, India annually receives a rainfall of 1085 millimeter. Number three, nearly 2/3 of the total rainfall received in India is through southwest monsoonal activity. That means 3 to 4 months of the year. The remaining amount comes from pre or post monsoon and northeast monsoon activity. Very important now. The total utilizable water resource in the country have been estimated to be 1123 billion cubic meters. 1123 billion cubic meters is utilizable water. which is combination of both surface and groundwater, which is just 28% of total precipitation. About 80% of water is being diverted for irrigation, which may increase to 1072 billion cubic meter by 2050. Now try and understand it very carefully, that if I say that the total utilizable water resource of our country is standing at some 1100 billion cubic meter approximately, which is coming from both the sources, surface and subsurface water resources, 28% of precipitation it is. So 80% of water is being diverted for irrigation, and it is going to increase. So it is going to increase, and automatically this increase is further going to pressurize the water resource. And another very important thing without which I don't want to close down with this is the major source of irrigation is groundwater. Near 60% of the total irrigated area is either tube well or well irrigated in our country. So groundwater has got an excessive pressure, because mind it, 80% of drinking water supplies is also from groundwater. So water resource in our country, we are water stressed country. We possibly may not be on the data fact water scarce country, but we are essentially water stressed, and water management thus comes into the forefront altogether. And this water management coming into forefront is what is being taken up as the irrigation means in this article. Excellent write-ups with each of the category. Enhancing water use efficiency includes laser land leveling, irrigation scheduling, methods of irrigation. Brief details. Proper land leveling, which I mentioned with the support of the diagram earlier, is one of the management option which is generally ignored by most of the farmers. It increases water application efficiency, which leads to higher yield. Leveling out the land minimizes wastage of water, enhances percolation of water, enriching soil moisture as well as the subsurface aquifer, by default enhancing water use efficiency. So point number one. The point number two talks about irrigation scheduling. It's a decision making process for determining when to irrigate, how much water to supply. By default, when we talk about methods of irrigation or which type of crop I require, like if I'm cultivating water intensive crop, I might require multiple watering during the growth time. But if I'm cultivating maximum of the varieties of nutri-cereal, pulses, oil seeds, they require single watering in their growing time. So what amount of water, when to water is surely going to make efficiency in water utilization. The goal of an effective irrigation scheduling program is to supply the plants with sufficient water while minimizing loss to deep percolation or runoff. It forms the sole means for optimizing agricultural production and for conserving water. It is key to improving performance and sustainability of irrigation. It's a decision making process. So what are the methods that we can apply to ensure water use efficiency? We have learned two. Number one, laser leveling. So it is going up with soil management. You can also call it land management. Second is irrigation scheduling. It goes with water management. And third is also with what? Methods of irrigation, which reads, once the water requirement for crop is quantitatively and temporally determined, then the methods of irrigation is to be selected. And the methods of irrigation is selected on the basis of soil type, land topography, crops to be grown. Methods of irrigation: check basin, border strip irrigation, furrow irrigation. The surface irrigation involves the application of water by gravity flow to the surface of the field. It is one of the very conventional method of irrigation. I'll show you the diagrams and the easier write-ups for it. Surge flow irrigation, micro irrigation. It is with micro irrigation, I mentioned it, that in 2015, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana came into being. The scheme provides end-to-end solution to irrigation supply chain. Micro irrigation helps in attaining greater water use efficiency because it is bottom-up strategy. And it is with micro irrigation that we have sprinkler irrigation, drip irrigation, fertigation, and subsurface dip irrigation. First, carefully understand what we have seen, and then we'll be taking support of this right. For increasing water use efficiency, laser land leveling, irrigation scheduling, and methods of irrigation, essentially under Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, micro irrigation, that is comprised of sprinkle, subsurface drip, are significant. Now, to understand each one of them, let us get to this. Surface irrigation includes furrow irrigation as first type. Furrow irrigation are narrow ditches dug on the field between the rows of the crop, and it incorporates different types. Like, can we notice that we are having these furrow irrigation in between, the water is being transmitted, and these are the rows of the crops in between. So furrow irrigation, where water flows from field ditch into the furrows by opening up the bank or dikes of the ditch or by means of siphons and spiles. So furrow irrigation will include pumping down of the water, as you can see in this very easily depicted image, and thus spilling out the water along the standing. Siphons are the small curved pipe that deliver water over the ditch bank. So it is a pipe that is delivering the water rather than the open flow of the water. So this is how you can distinguish. It is also the example of furrow irrigation. Furrow, which is the example of surface irrigation. And the another spiles, which are the pipes buried under the ditch bank. I can see pipe here. This pipe is buried under the ditch bank, and from this reservoir of water, it is transmitting the water into this ditch, which is right there in the in between the rows of the crops. So what exactly we are trying to notice here, that furrow irrigation as surface irrigation can include spiles, then comes border irrigation. In border irrigation, the field to be irrigated is divided into strips called borders by parallel dikes or border ridges. The water is released from the field ditch onto the border through the gate structure called outlet. The water can also be released by the means of siphons or spiles, and the sheet of flowing water moves down the slope on the border bridges. See this image? Water is being transported. It's a sort of flooding. Can you notice that whether it is flooding or it is furrow irrigation, there is the possibility of a higher evaporational loss and higher percolational loss. So automatically these conventional means always put the challenge with lesser water use efficiency. So what is the more efficient way of irrigation? Sprinkler irrigation, artificial rainfall is created, And sprinkler irrigation, as this diagram is overhead sprinkling. Amount of water and the nature of sprinkling is determined by what is the season of watering that you are taking into account. So here we can increase water use efficiency because we are sprinkling the water on the plant itself, crop itself, rather than open movement of the water, which enhances percolational or evaporational. Then we have drip irrigation. Drip irrigation is also called trickle irrigation. And I've added one diagram here. Can you see, compared to the traditional irrigation means, the drip irrigation system can lead water saving up to 40%. Here you are dripping water at every root. You can increase water use efficiency to more than 85%. The water is supplied slowly, drop by drop, to the plants through these emitters. Then a subsurface drip irrigation. It's a low pressure, high efficient irrigation system that uses buried drip pipes and drip tapes to meet crops requirement. It's also dripping water, but in place of surface pipe, you have got the buried pipe, and automatically it is quite suitable to the areas where arid, hot, windy areas where water supply is highly restricted on surface because of higher evaporational loss, evaporation more than precipitation, or sandy type of soil which restricts the possibility of surface runoff. So it is quite easy for us to develop, comparatively easy for us to develop subsurface drip irrigation. I've taken in this PDF the important bullet points: conservation of water, reduce conveyance losses, reduce direct evaporation, reduce runoff and percolation, reduce evaporation from bare soil by mulching, and reduce transpiration by weed. So these can be the important points that you can apply. Conservation of water for water use efficiency and sustainable agriculture. And I have also added enhancement of crop growth by selecting most suitable and marketable crop. This is what we have said, resource based agriculture. Optimal timing, optimal tillage, use of appropriate insecticide, applying manure, green manure, practicing soil conservation, avoid progressive salinization, and irrigate at high frequency to prevent water deficits. And what are the methods that we'll be applying will be dependent on which type of area we are, what type of climate is there, which type of soil is prevalent, because I need to take the reference of all these factors in determining the efficiency of means of irrigation. So first part of this write-up is talking about what is the overall scenario of water in our country. And the second part, which is giving us the understanding of what are sustainable agriculture in terms of increasing water use efficiency. If I quickly go to the page that I created, for increasing water use efficiency, we are having laser land leveling, irrigation scheduling, and methods of irrigation, specifically micro irrigation. These are important things that we can take into reference. And in the continuity of the write-up, I have included the rainwater harvesting techniques in Indian perspective, because without rainwater harvesting, the possibility of water resource management by default is incomplete. So the agroeconomic practices that can lead to water resource management is rainwater harvesting. The water harvesting methods includes micro and macro catchment. Micro is on-farm system and rooftop system. Rooftop system can be applied both to urban and rural areas, but on-farm by default will be applicable to rural areas only. Small pits, runoff strips, semicircular bunds. We create semicircular depressions where we try to collect out the rainwater which will percolate down, will minimize runoff. So all these practices can be taken. The contour benches and terraces. And macro catchment is wadi bed system, small reservoirs, and off wadi system, larger bunds, tanks, because these basically will be for a village in total. So we can take village, community, and this can be applicable to individuals. And mind it, all these water harvesting methods we are practicing in our country. Then I've included advantages of implementing rainwater harvesting. So as I've always insisted, let there be points, let there be specifically demarcated points. Don't get on to mixing up of the information. So reduced water bills, ecological benefit, erosion and flooding, adequate means for irrigation, and reduced demand on groundwater. Because when I am replenishing, recharging, then automatically the stress on the water resource gets reduced. We have already seen with that table, you can see surface runoff harvesting, recharge pit, trench, tube well, recharge well, rooftop rainwater, and groundwater recharge, gully plug, contour bund, dug well, percolation tag, check dam, recharge shaft. So you can add that with the table that you have picked up and this write up, so it automatically gives you the importance. And don't miss to see with this PDF examples of traditional water harvesting systems in India. I've quoted list of examples. All of them is unlikely, but some of them you can easily add in your answer writing technique. And when we are talking about water resource, Jal Shakti Abhiyan related to Jal Shakti Mantralaya is important thing for us to take into reference. Making water conservation a Jan Andolan is a very important reference that we have talked about. Participatory management. It has got 4 focus areas. Infographics helps us in picking up the details much easily. And infographics is to be integrated with my content building is always advisable. So reuse borewell, intensive afforestation, this is called bio drainage also. Watershed development, renovation of traditional water bodies and tanks, water conservation and rainwater harvesting, we have already talked about it in details. Campaign to cover both rural and urban areas. From that perspective, Jal Jeevan Mission, part of Jal Shakti Abhiyan, and it is basically oriented towards 4 prominent focus areas. Rural household piped drinking water supply, integrated demand and supply management at local level, so it's again bottom up. Converge with central and other state schemes, and creation of local infrastructure for rainwater harvesting. Are you noticing rainwater harvesting is a very important part and parcel of water conservation strategies that we are following. Now, with the support of a PDF write-up and certain diagrams and also infographics, I have tried all of us to understand that the write-up that we took as our support in the understanding of water use efficiency enhancement, sustainable agriculture, its relation to organic farming's relation to zero budget natural farming, and how do I take rainwater harvesting and the water resource management to be integrated with sustainable agriculture. Why it is efficient, why it is necessary for us to enhance the efficiency of water resource management in the country, and why it is of a variable levels of intensity that we see in different parts of our country. All these have got a significant say when it comes to our answer writing, and you must try to integrate it in your approach of any content building. So do create the bullet point information about what is the requirement of water resource management, what are the benefits of water resource management, how it is related to sustainable agriculture, and automatically you are gaining out on the details of the info. So this is it from my side for this time being. Happy learning. Goodbye.